Have been engrossed in the move by the Central Bank of Kenya to change Kenya's currency and, more importantly, to demonetize Kenya's highest valued currency, the 1,000 shilling note. Economists and pundits have been giving ideas on how to efficiently demonetize and remonetize without affecting the economy negatively. Australia has been given us a shining example of how this should be done, while India's demonetization of the 1,500 rupee notes in 2016 has been reported as exactly how not to do it. That aside, the look of the new notes has come up for heavy criticism, specifically an image of the Kenyatta International Convention Center, which shows a statue of Kenya's first president, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. Now, petitioners say that contravenes the Constitution, and there are two cases currently before the Chief Justice on the same. Why are Kenyans divided on this issue? Why is it such a big deal? Is it that Kenyans are not proud of their founding fathers? We'll also look out to next week's budget statement as the government prepares to deliver on the big four, as well as the latest state appointments that have been causing jitters here and there. I am Ben Kitili, live at the KTN News Center. Inside Politics begins right now. For the next 120 minutes, shall be dissecting these issues for you. Shall also be wanting to hear from you what you say about our discussions today. At the end of the show, we'll have your call, or you will give us the final say on what we are discussing. Let's get right into it. Now, two petitions challenging the constitutionality of the new generation banknotes have now been referred to Chief Justice David Maraga. High Court Judge Justice Weldon Korir says the petitions raised weighty issues and is asking the Chief Justice to constitute a bench to hear the applications. Here's Rita Tinina with more details.
From politicians, legal experts to activists, the launch of the new generation banknotes has generated varied opinion. And two people are taking on the central bank over the new 50, 100, 200, 500 and 1,000 shilling notes. Activist Okiya Omtata and East African Legislative Assembly MP Simon Mbugua moved to court on Monday. Their main argument that the Central Bank of Kenya contravened the law with the inclusion of the image of founding President Mzee Jomo Kenyatta and the plan to demonetize the 1,000 shilling notes by the 1st of October. The new generation notes bear the image of the Kenyatta International Convention Center and the statue of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. Omtata and Simon Mbugua are also citing lack of public participation. A day after they filed their petitions, High Court Judge Justice Weldon Korir certified the applications. The judge says the petitions raise weighty constitutional issues and need to be heard by more than one judge. He referred the matter to Chief Justice David Maraga to constitute a bench. The central bank says it is ready to prove in court that it followed due process in the introduction of the notes.
If you really think that we did the wrong thing, sure, let's go to court.
The new generation notes were launched on Saturday during Madaraka Day celebrations in Narok, just over 5 months after the government launched new generation coins. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
All right, so Kenyans have been speaking about this on social media and everywhere. The old 1,000 shilling note to the bank, it has to be returned by October 1st to usher in the new currency notes. What do you think of this change? We did ask Kenyans what they thought about the change, the new feel, the new look notes. Listen.
Mfanyikazi, sisi hatuna shida ya kubadilisha pesa. Mabwenyenye ndio wako na hiyo shida. I don't
really think that days are enough to change the currency because it's a bit in a rush, like everyone has to take back the money to the bank or something. I've heard of the sort.
I used to think like maybe if we have like 10 presidents in future, like everyone is on that currency page, but it's nice. It's the heritage we are promoting there.
What do you think?
It's really looking appealing, and even the size of the currency is just similar to the dollar, and I feel like also the currency with the drawings on it and how it has been also been decorated also, I feel like it's a good currency.
Mimi nimeona ni sawa sawa kwa ajili ile pesa ambayo imefishwa na wale watu wameiba pesa zetu katika nchi yetu sitajulikana, ndio waweze kusirudisha kwa banki ama wasirudishe sifanye kazi ndio nchi yetu iendelee.
So the political class has also been talking about this issue, some of them being accused of flip-flopping on the issue. ODM have had their say. Listen to this.
I saw the photo of Kenyatta International Conference Center, in front of which, as we all know, is the sculptor of the founding father of the nation, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. So what we have there is the picture of the sculptor of Jomo Kenyatta, not the portrait of Jomo Kenyatta, which the Constitution would otherwise prohibit under Article 231. And we must draw a line between a picture of a sculptor like of Dedan Kimathi, like of the founding father, like Tom Mboya, and the portrait of Jomo Kenyatta. That is the distinction that law would make. But I want to request that those lawyers who think they know so much, we have so many things in which you can meaningfully engage for the benefit of this society.
You have to take the photo of Tom Mboya Street. Are you going to remove the statue of Tom Mboya Street so that you can have Tom Mboya Street only? Or, for example, Kimathi Street. These are symbols that have been put in place for remembrance of people who have achieved great things for this country. But the most important thing there is, what is there is KICC as a building, as an iconic building.
So, if you are asked as a Kenyan, which is a bigger issue, whether this is constitutional or not, or the corruption in this country, in my mind, the scale goes for fighting corruption. That is what we must look at. The small things we leave to the lawyers to sort out. If it is found that there may be an issue, that will be sorted out. But we can't sit here. Our children are dying from even lack of medicines in hospital. There are no services. People are keeping money in their homes. People are laundering money. We must look at the bigger picture.
Weighty issues being raised there, but this has been something that Kenyans have been speaking about, the new money, demonetization. What impact that will have on the economy? Will it be done in a better way than has been done in other places where it has not worked very well? Like, for example, in India in 2016, where demonetization of their two highest currency notes was done within hours. Kenyans have been given until October 1st to make sure they return this old 1,000 shilling notes and have this. It will be demonetized by October 1st. But what Kenya have been talking about very much in the last 1 week is the constitutionality of the look of the new currency. My panel is here with me to just iron out some of these issues and tell me what they think about the new money. I have with me political risk analyst Dismas Mukua, communication strategist Mark Bichachi, senior reporter at The Standard, Roslyn Obala, who doesn't like this new money very much, and lawyer and political strategist Kipchumba Karori. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me this morning. Dismas, what do you think about the new currency? Have you been able to feel it?
No, I've not been able to feel it because I don't operate in a cash economy. I rely on electronic transfers.
Oh, but you say.
Yeah, but be that as it may, the plain reading of the Constitution suggests that we shouldn't have a portrait of any human being. And I guess what the 5 judges are going to establish whether or not a monument, in fact, is a portrait or not. But as the ODM MPs have said, really, I don't know why we are discussing the demonetization, because that is really a color story. The content is the money you're holding in your hand, the 1,000 bob, what can it actually do? Or maybe if you go to lower values like 200 bob, what is the value of the 200 bob? And I think the Kenyan political class has perfected the art of impunity, mediocrity, and corruption, that when we launch this currency, we spend another 3 weeks discussing it instead of discussing the core issues. The core issues is whether the central bank has a very solid monetary leadership for the nation called Kenya.
Yes.
Whether or not they are fighting interest rates. And you remember in other countries like the US, when Ben Bernanke, when he was the Fed chief, when he spoke, the entire country came to a standstill.
Okay.
And I don't know whether it's the same situation in Kenya when Professor Njoroge speaks, whether people come to a standstill, whether he has offered us the solid monetary leadership. And in my view, instead of discussing that new currency, as a nation, we should be asking ourselves, does Dr. Njoroge deserve another 4 years?
All right.
What has he done in assisting as a manager our debts? On the issue of the portrait...
Before we get into that, we'll get into the issues. We'll also get into Patrick Njoroge, who has been reappointed as CBK governor. But let's get it out of the way, Mark Bichachi, because it is something Kenyans are talking about. It is in the constitution how our money should look like, and it is before the CJ right now, a petition filed by Okiya Omtata. What's your take on this, Mark?
First, why is how our money should look like in the constitution? Genuinely. Because that is something that is too prescriptive.
Because it is one of the best documents in the world, I'm told.
Well,
but you see,
it is over prescriptive.
All right.
You see, such decisions from time to time should be able to be amendable by parliament. Okay, that's why we have representation. Now, let's look back as to why we decided not to have portraits. We decided not to have portraits because we thought that it is a way that despots of the past have imposed their personality onto the nation, right? So we were reacting to the past and not projecting the future. For example, would we want Ayego, our medalist, our javelin medalist, on the money? Could we want one of our Mau Mau heroes, Dedan Kimathi, for example, on our money, because we didn't have a problem of his statue coming up? Do we have Tom Mboya? Do we want our Nobel laureate Wangari Maathai? You understand? So to me, the issue first is nonsensical to argue whose picture is there. And number two, the way we wrote the constitution, looking backwards and not looking at the future, then we are not being serious, because pictures on currency is not just a way of celebrating past presidents. There are lots of people to be celebrated in Kenyan history. There is Wangu Wamakeri for the Kikuyu. There's Luanda Magere. There's all these people that we could have possibly celebrated, and now we are arguing not because they do not qualify as heroes, but because we were treating a disease that we long since stopped suffering from.
Rosalind?
From where I sit, I think Kenyans do not have a problem with having a portrait in our currency. But when you talk about the constitution, we need to uphold the constitution. Remember, we struggled with the drafting of this constitution for over 20 years.
Yes.
And finally, when we got it, it was a give and take. You had to cede grounds, one side to cede ground for the other to also have their take. Now, if our constitution, Article 231, talks about not bearing a portrait, and we have Kenyatta International Conventional Center, which is a monument, I'm sure the person who was taking the picture will have taken it whichever way, and we will still have the monument without a portrait. And those who have gone to court have not gone to court because they do not want the portrait. Actually, for me, if I walk out of this country, I feel so nice when I have something that connects me with this country.
Right.
But we have to uphold the constitution. If it says no portrait, no picture, no image of a single person, then we really need to do that. And I think that is why when the case went to court, the judge decided now to refer it to the Chief Justice for a direction, because this is a very sensitive issue. Remember the struggle we had for this constitution. So for me, I stand with that. But what more people are not discussing, it's not even about the portrait. The constitution talks about public participation.
Right.
Now, to this extent, we only saw the currency being launched. We are going to spend 15 billion for 3 years. That's not loose change. It's so much money. So if indeed the court today wakes up and say the currency is legal, then where do we go back? How much has been spent? How much will we have spent to just put up an advert in the newspaper or engage the public and just get to know what Kenyans want and do a sample? You will have just used some million shillings. But here is a case, I am sure we have used so much to print this currency. So in the event that it is declared unconstitutional,
right,
where do we start?
And that is part of the issues that Okiya Omtata is raising in that petition. Wanawakili, what is your take from this from a legal perspective? And also, like Mark is saying, we overput things in the did the framers of the constitution overstep their mandate of what they should do in terms of little details that like how our currency should look like?
Ben, little detail, a comma, a full stop in a constitution means a lot to a nation. It might be the fabric that holds together a nation. We cannot just sit down in one morning and just throw away what we fought for 20 years, what people died for the revolution that our constitution is to come into being. We cannot excuse the governor of Central Bank, one Mr. Njoroge, to just apply the constitution selectively just because it will be an expensive venture. Democracy in itself is expensive. So the issue of we will use 15 billion or 100 billion is a useless question. The question is constitutionality. And my fear is the Article 234 was created not because it was the best interest, but it was created with one man in mind. It was created with trying to tame Daniel Moi from our currency. That is the folly. But come to the other rationale, we must debate this thing with context in mind. The drafters of the Constitution or the framers of the Constitution knew in their minds that we have a tendency of swapping villains for heroes in this country. Look at the people we celebrate. We celebrate people who have perpetrated genocide, land grabbers, corrupt, murderers in the name of leaders. And the other thing, Ben, that we must also look at now is that heroes and heroines in Kenya are not restricted to our leaders. Back to the issue of the constitutionality of this currency. Just a minute. Back to the constitutionality of this currency. The law speaks about a portrait of any person. Let us not tiptoe around issues and sneak in the portrait of the Kenyatta, the founding father. He is the founding father, yes. But I think the streets, that stomp we have in parliament and other things are enough for one man. They are commemorative enough. We have a day set out to celebrate him. It was Kenyatta Day, now it is Mashujaa Day. So the thing is this, let us, even if we want this money, it is a good thing actually going forward. But the thing is, let us not start in the wrong footing of doing something unconstitutional in the name of we are appeasing time. Appeasing time for who? Kenya is not running away.
Question for you, is there anything wrong with having, apart from the legal issues and what the Constitution says, let's leave that to the CJ and his bench to which will discuss this matter. Is there anything wrong with having heroes, wherever they may be on the currency, from where you sit?
What the Constitution says now is that we should not have a portrait of anybody unless our hero here, we are talking about a lion or Mount Kenya. But when we are talking about human beings, whether it is a portrait, a sculpture, or whatever you want to call it, that one remains unconstitutional. And we cannot operate outside the Constitution to appease some few people or to appease time. It has taken us 7 years. We have been printing money and backdating it to July 2010.
Where were the framers of the Constitution coming from?
The framers of the Constitution knew that Kenya has a very funny way of doing things. When we talk about heroes, Kenyans have a limited memory of who our heroes is. Nobody remembers J.J. Masega in this country. We all remember Mike Sonko. We remember all politicians are our heroes in terms of the normal slang. But the problem is this. We have a tendency of swapping villains for heroes. That is where
we borrow a lot from the American Constitution. And the $1 bill has George Washington, the $2 bill has Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln is on the $5 bill, Alexander Hamilton on the 10, and Benjamin Franklin on the $100 bill.
That is
former president and former founding father.
Actually, when you look at it from progressive and democratic nations, that is the way to go. But here we have a document that Kenyans took 20 years to come up with, and in their wisdom or lack of it, they said that we do not need those people in our currency. Allow Kenyans, allow the will and the wish of Kenyans to reign.
Ben, my question is pretty simple, and this is to Kipchumba because he's a lawyer. The Constitution in its letter talks about a portrait, okay? Now, will the judges then judge by the spirit of the Constitution? Because I think the whole nation understands that the spirit of the Constitution that we had then was the songs we were singing, Yote Yawezekana Bila Certain People in 2002. Now, will the judges then be forced to judge by the letter of the law or by the spirit of that law? Because the spirit is very clear. We do not want the images of anyone. But the central bank, for the wisdom or the lack thereof, have found a way of putting an image of a statue, you know, of the founding father. You understand? So they've shielded themselves thrice. So tell me, and this is a genuine question, will we go by the letter or by the spirit?
Anytime the letter and the spirit of the Constitution do not find a point of convergence, that is not a Constitution. And that is why our Constitution, when you read it from the first page to the last page where it talks about the issues of devolution and those sections talking about the oath of office, all of them are in tandem. And that is why in constitutional interpretation, there is no article in the Constitution that forms superiority or is of superior nature to the other. That is why we cannot, even for a minute, start debating what Bichachi is saying. We have courts of competent jurisdiction and the matter is seized in that court. So let us allow the court to go through the issue. But there are three issues that must also be understood. The legality of the currency, the issue of demonetization, and now the elephant in the room, the issue of remonetization. Those are the three issues that Kenyans must not lose sight of.
All right. But again, Dismas, the issue that Rosalind raised here, public participation, it has been raised in that petition. The CBK governors defended the new currency, saying there was public participation.
But where was this public participation? I mean, was the public participation at the CBK boardroom or with members of a particular church? I mean, the plain understanding of public participation is that Mora ought to be aware that there's going to be a new currency and the people are invited to give their designs. Then they go through the selection process, they pick whatever they consider the best, maybe 3, using a certain matrix, and then it's advertised. Then people give opinion. That is the definition of public participation. And you know, the way Kipchumba has indicated, for some reason, public servants of rank in Kenya, they respect the Constitution at their pleasure. When it suits them, they hold it very high. The same thing about court orders. The same Jubilee administration, when they want to respect court orders, they say we have to respect court orders. When they don't want to, they kick Miguna out of the nation. So now you've been told that before you do anything, there must be public participation. So now, then the question comes when, as far as CBK is concerned, who defines public participation? Maybe they've got a very strict definition of public participation that provided the board of CBK is agreeable, then that's a public participation.
Right.
And another question is, the chairman of CBK is a lawyer. They've got internal lawyers, they've got external lawyers. Does it mean that nobody among all those lawyers socialized with Article 231 of the Kenyan Constitution to see that you should not have a portrait? And if you go to any dictionary, be it a Black Dictionary or even Oxford, a portrait is a portrait. Why would they want the nation to be consumed into tiny little details which can overturn a very good process? I mean, we are using 15 billion to get this new currency. If for some reason those 5 judges say this thing is unconstitutional, go back to scratch, does it mean this 50 billion has gone to waste? And if the 15 billion goes to waste, yes, is there somebody who's going to take a personal responsibility for that omission or commission of this kind of decision making? You know, it's only in Kenya whereby public servants of rank make these glaring errors, these decisions that drive the country into a drain, and then we celebrate them, then we start jumping up and about. And talking about heroes, the reason why the framers of the Constitution said right from the word go, we are not going to have anybody, anything like a hero in the Constitution, is because we don't have a uniform definition of a hero. You know, if you come from Kisii, like I do, I would easily say Sakawa is a hero. But who knows Sakawa outside Kisii? If you come from Nairobi and you don't like Esther Passaris, it's very easy for you to say that Sonko is an hero. So let's just have monuments. Let's have Mount Kenya or Lake Victoria. Things which are very specific.
What does that say about our nation, though? That we'd rather have animals?
No, the thing is that
the people that have inspired us.
The thing is that we are not even a nation.
We erase history.
We are not even a nation, because I mean, how would you say that it's a nation when a certain ruling class robs people blind every day, and then you claim to be a nation? I mean, how can you be a nation when people are supposed to be paying taxes? They don't pay taxes, but they ensure that Mora has to pay every taxes.
Okay, Mark, very quickly, it looks like Kenyans, the way they're debating this, is like they are having the public participation now.
Well, you see, there's so many layers. Number one, we need to understand that someone has to take the leadership of a country in terms of redefining its moral compass and dictating to us who our hero is, okay? Because if we go down this path, then who do we give EGH and HSCs and things like that? Because then we should not celebrate any human being, because we do need as a nation to have the capacity to identify between Pasaris and Sonko who is a hero. We must come to that point. You understand? Just the same way the Americans have judged Lincoln and the other presidents, and
right.
We need to have that capacity as any society. Even in your home, there is a way when your child goes and performs a certain way in school, they get a star or not. How you can figure it out for kindergarten and you can't figure it out for a country, there is something really, really wrong with our republic. Secondly, public participation on this matter is for me, I'm very careful to say that there wasn't or there was, because I have no facts to go by. Because we just wait.
He's part of the public. He should not tell people on national TV that he is wishy-washy.
Can I finish my statement?
It is a bad statement.
Can I finish my statement?
I finish your statement because
Thank you very
I have
much.
to finish this.
Because for me, I know there are sections of printing currency that must be held secret. Okay? I know also that this particular issue of demonetization of our currency is not something that you wanted to go around telling everybody. What do you think? Should we or should we not tell the thieves in this country who've got millions in their stores not to put the currency out there? What I do agree with is the pictures, the images, the look and feel of the currency should have been put to the public.
All right.
That's actually it is the truth.
It's committed murder. Because 2010.
Why has he committed murder?
It's committed murder.
20 seconds on.
Yeah, it's committed murder because when we got the new constitution 2010, we knew at some stage we were going to have a new currency. So it's not a secret. It's been out for the last 10 years. So Ben Bichachi cannot claim that he doesn't know.
No, you see, here's the thing, guys.
Yes, what do you...
Just a minute.
Yes, it does.
What you're talking about,
so you want us to discuss security features?
Look at it.
No.
The constitution talks about public participation.
Yes.
Whichever way you look at it, you cannot overrule that and say because of the secrecy or the security of the country, let's overrule public participation.
Does the public participate when you are buying a warship for the army?
Even our leaders.
Let's go to the place where we don't.
All right.
Just a minute, Ben.
We'll come back to that. We have to take a quick commercial break here on Inside Politics. Keep the conversation ongoing. The hashtag on Twitter is Inside Politics. You can catch more details on this on Behind the Headlines tomorrow night, where we'll be talking about the issue of demonetization of Kenya's highest valued currency, the 1,000 shilling note. That's tomorrow night on KTN Prime. Let's take a quick commercial break here. When we come back, we shall be having an outlook of the budget statement that is set to be released next week. The CS and it will be presenting a 3.08 trillion budget. We'll be taking a look at some of the issues. Stay with us.